Welcome into Jags AM. I'm Kainani Stevens. Our first Jags AM of the month of May. Brian Sexton and John Oehser are with me today. It's an exciting month coming up. OTAs are around the corner. Voluntary workouts already going on. But let's start out with our first big thing today, which is rookie minicamp. That's coming up in the coming days. And as much excitement as there is swirling around this rookie class, Brian, what are you most looking forward to in rookie minicamp this week?
Travis Hunter. I mean, listen, I can't imagine even being excited about rookie minicamp, especially, since 2015 when things changed after Dante Fowler tore his ACL and they went to more of a walkthrough. But you're getting a star. You're getting a superstar in Travis Hunter, who brings such a huge presence both online and in person. I'm excited to see him.
Yeah, I mean, Travis Hunter is the only answer, and since Brian goes first, he gets the answer today. But within that,
gotta get it right.
The people who are coming out to see this, you're not going to see, much football stuff, but you will see speed. You will see Tootin's very fast, Hunter's very fast. They tried to draft to get some speed, so I think you'll see some suddenness from those guys, and that's the kind of thing you can see. But the show is Travis Hunter, and this is the first act of the show.
We love that. Our second big thing today is going to be overhaul. We talked a lot about the front office changes we saw in the offseason, but now after the draft, we're seeing some more changes continue. Assistant General Manager Ethan Watt parted ways with the team. Some other front office changes. John, is this something we will see going forward the next couple of weeks as this goes along?
Yeah, I think this is how the clock works with a new GM. They come in, they do the draft with people who are existing because the people who are there have the institutional knowledge of what this scouting staff has looked at. Then once you get through the draft, James Gladstone, the Rams do things a certain way. James Gladstone does things a way that I anticipate evolving from the Rams, and we'll stop talking about that soon. But he'll bring in his people who see it the same way he does and who he has experience with, just like anybody. So I think the transition you'll see over the next month-ish is very natural, expected, and it'll be exciting though, Brian, because these guys think a little different, and I think it's natural when you do that you want to get people who are on the same page as you.
Well, since John gets to go first with the second question, he got the obvious answer, so I'm just going to reiterate it in different terms. You just expected that the previous GM's right-hand man was going to be dismissed. I mean, I don't know whether he expected it, but I think everybody around expected it. But to John's point, they just do things different. It's an unconventional way of approaching, asymmetrical. I've called it the hedge fund over and over and over. It's guys that do things a completely different way. Old school football, new school football, and they're going to infiltrate the ranks with people that do things their way. It just makes sense.
Our final big thing today is going to be turnover. We saw a ton of signings in free agency, obviously with the new front office here, and now we've seen the rookie additions and also the undesignated free agent additions. I think there's almost 20 of them. So, Brian, when you look at this roster, it's going to be more than half new people right at this point, which makes sense with a changeover in management. But what are we looking for as far as things go forward? There's going to be a lot of new faces.
Yeah, and I think the speed side of it is what really stands out. I mean, this team added it all over the place. I don't know that I thought they were terribly slow last year, but it's clear that this coaching staff and the scouting staff wanted something completely different. So when you look down the ranks of the guys, especially the undrafted rookie free agents, you see speed, speed, speed. I think that's the part that, as John alluded to, we're going to see on Saturday, guys running and running fast.
Yeah, and you can't really change a culture without changing the people, and some of that is players. So I do think you're seeing that. I think the number is 29 rookies last time I counted. I think there were 22 free agents by the time they finished. And I think the intriguing thing is James Gladstone, I think he alluded to it at the draft. They clearly left spots. Their roster was a little smaller after free agency going into the draft than maybe would have been usual. A lot of teams sort of wait, see what they draft, then they release guys. The Jaguars were able to sort of we're going to leave space. They knew what positions were likely. So this has been a plan from day one, and of course there's transition because you're changing culture.
I was at an event with James last night, and he was asked this very question about undrafted rookies and filling the roster with rookies and there being a chance. And he went back to a year, probably 3 years ago in Los Angeles, where they had 46 players under contract on draft weekend. And they filled in the gaps with rookie free agents using their method, their DNA, as he alluded to time and again. And you've seen what they've done the last couple of years. And of course, they made a playoff run last year. So it clearly has worked for them. And that's what they're setting about to do here.
Let's hope it works just as well in Jacksonville. Stay with us here on Jags AM. We're going to go over some of that roster construction after the break.
Can you imagine rising for work before the crack of dawn? Tending to hundreds of acres of land before dusk? Well, that's what happens on 47,000 Florida farms every day. Florida's farmers work hard to grow nutritious food for you and your family. And you can help support them by enjoying delicious Fresh from Florida produce. Look for the sunny Fresh from Florida logo where you shop or visit freshfromflorida.com to learn more.
And that's a Magellan first down.
Move the freight, move the freight, move the freight.
Would you like to control your own income? Work at Magellan Transport, voted the coolest office space in Duval. Bring your talents and let your career flourish. Visit their website at MagellanLogistics.com and apply online. Trust service. Trust Magellan.
Hi, my name is Charlie Jordan, and I'm the manager of social media for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So as manager of social media, we serve as a bridge between the fans and the franchise. And so my passion is rooted in being a fan, but I also get to work with the team each day. The Bright Future Scholarship was huge for me because I was able to pursue an education at the University of Florida. And because I didn't have to worry about paying for classes, I could spend my time covering the sports teams that I work around. I'm extremely grateful for the Bright Future Scholarship and the Florida Lottery specifically for allowing me to earn an education.
Jags AM today brought to you by Fresh from Florida. It's always in season.
This or that. This or that.
Welcome back to Jags AM today. We're going to have rookie minicamp at the end of the week. Voluntary workouts, though, have been going on for a while, and Brian, I don't have the exact number count, but it's pretty good turnout so far.
Yeah, that generally happens in a year where you get a brand new coaching staff. Guys want to come in and take advantage of the opportunity to get ahead before OTAs. Plus, the excitement and energy level with a new young staff. It can't hurt.
Nice
Well,
to see the buy-in.
it almost always happens in Florida anyway, as Brian alluded to with the new staff. And frankly, with this bunch, look, they're voluntary, but I can list maybe 6, 7 guys who I know will start. I can't list many more than that. Yeah. So I'm sure there is a little bit of a psychological thing if you're competing even for an offensive line position. Might be a good idea to get there and be in front of the coaches, even though the coaches can't say
do anything yet. Yeah, listen, I think especially if you're talking about an offensive line position, because that's a group that's under great scrutiny. And they brought in a bunch of players and drafted some as well. And I don't think either of the tackles, either Walker Little or Anton Harrison, has distinguished himself enough to be clear of competition. So I think that group in particular is going to be under some scrutiny.
We're going to talk about a couple of things when we talk about competition and what we're looking at in terms of roster construction. On the defense, we saw some additions. I think at this point we've seen most of what they're going to do for the roster, maybe a free agent here or there. But where does your concern lie on the defensive side of the football? Obviously, there was a lot of breakdowns in the secondary last year, not a ton of push from the defensive line. Which one of those is a focus you think needs to be this offseason to be better next season?
I think safety. I mean, we saw so many big plays down the middle last year, and I realize Andre Cisco had a poor year, and he's now in New York. But, John, it seemed, especially when Dewey Wingard was down, that they just didn't have any answers. Antonio Johnson did not rise to the occasion, at least not in that scheme last year, despite at the end of the year prior showing a lot of skill. It just seemed like they had no solutions at safety whatsoever. I know they've addressed that, both in free agency and the draft. But that's the area, the middle of the field, that I'm most concerned about.
Well, I'm still a little concerned at corner. Travis Hunter is obviously an incredible ad. I believe Jordan Lewis will go outside some, and Travis Hunter will play there. I still want to see what that looks like, although I think they have addressed corner and secondary. I still wonder if some defensive line stuff isn't still to come. I think you could still see them add edge, tackle, whatever. I'm not sure they're done there in terms of veterans.
You know, for his sake, I hope that Mason Smith is working his butt off. I mean, there's so much.
That would be nice.
There's so much being placed on his shoulders. You know, a second-round pick a year ago, a guy with immense potential, and if he's right, if he's good, Kai, I mean, they've got a major issue in the middle of their defense solved. But if he's not, and he's a disappointment, then they've got an issue that they're going to deal with all season long.
Yeah, I think the big thing there is they would love him to be what the last regime drafted him as, because I think that gives you what you know is going to be for 26 and 27, if I'm getting the years right after this. It's hard to see Eric Armstead being here after this year. Yeah. So they would love to have Mason Smith moving in, ascending. Mason Smith's going to be a big part of the rotation this year. But to be the guy in there, boy, would that be something they wouldn't have to address in the draft in a premium area again.
Let's switch to the offensive line. Obviously, we talked a ton about the additions they've made to that room, how different it's going to look. We know there will be at least 2 new starters just by way of Mitch Morse's retirement and Brandon Sheriff not being here anymore. So center and right guard will be different this year, but will there be more than 2 new starters to this offensive line this year, John?
Yeah, and I couldn't tell you which one, Brian, but I mean, every position, I think even the guys they brought in are competing, but left tackle, right guard is absolutely a competition with Wyatt Milam coming in to push Oehser. I'm sorry, I've got that left guard.
Right.
But the reason, I guess I said it that way, I don't know that there's a position that I would bet my house where I know the starter. I think it'll be Little, the guys we're sort of projecting, but I bet I don't bat 100% if I picked it right now. I think the competition is that real.
Well, I think the 2 guys we talk about on the outside both have a leg up because they're the most athletic, they're the most capable guys. But because this new coaching staff does things so differently, I wouldn't put it past anybody to be able. I even mentioned to somebody, well, certainly Hainsey, the center that they bring in from Tampa. He knows the coach, he knows the scheme, and I said somebody said, don't bet on it, right? I mean, he's got to go earn it. Right. Yeah, I mean, there's some guys that are probable that you think they just make sense, but the offensive line is going to be the storyline of training camp beyond the quarterback and Travis Hunter.
Absolutely.
Now let's turn our focus to the running back room, another crowded room. When we look at 2 additions from the rookie class, plus obviously undesignated free agents as well. But looking at that room, who do we think will have at the end of this season the most carries for the team?
I think Tootin will. By the end, I just think they drafted him to give them that explosiveness. I'll kind of pull back on that a little bit. Will he have the most carries? I think so. Will he have the most impact? Will he be the guy you're talking about the most? I think I'd be surprised if he wasn't because of how they see him fitting. And it's not out of the question that he starts.
He's their Bucky Irving. You know, he's the guy that comes in as a rookie and they believe can transform the way the running game works. I think more interesting is who's going to have the second most. I mean, is Travis Etienne going to be a part of the running back rotation, or is he going to be more of an offensive weapon, a guy that they line up in the slot and they move around, more of a third down back? And we talked last week about the opportunity, a distinct one that exists for Travis in that role. I think Tank is going to be the guy who has the second most carries.
Yeah, and don't sleep on LaQuint Allen.
Yes.
7th round pick.
Yeah.
I'd be very surprised if he's not a factor. So it's as much as we talk about the offensive line, it sort of feels from outside like, well, Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne have been the guys to sort of default. Not at all. This is everything's on the table. Wide receiver, you feel really good about knowing the 3, and then Parker Washington is the 4th. That feels right. Quarterback feels right. Beyond that, it's going to be interesting to see how roles play out.
I think any order I would believe you at this point.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure, but that's what makes it fun. Stay with us. We'll talk a little bit more about what's coming up the rest of the week.
What's the best part about lawn care during the winter? You can give it a rest. Lawns only need watering up to once a week. Really, that's it. Using less water means you're saving time and money that you can put towards something else. Before you run your sprinklers, remember, give it a rest and only water up to once a week. For more information, visit waterlessflorida.com.
If you are an experienced electrician looking for your next big opportunity, look no further than the Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller Electric, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering you the chance to showcase your skills on a grand scale. We believe in rewarding hard work with the best pay, top-notch benefits, and an unbeatable culture where people actually care about each other. Take your career to new heights with Miller Electric Company. Apply today at millercareers.com. Miller Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
Hi, my name is Charlie Jordan, and I'm the manager of social media for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So as manager of social media, we serve as a bridge between the fans and the franchise, and so my passion is rooted in being a fan, but I also get to work with the team each day. The Bright Future Scholarship was huge for me because I was able to pursue an education at the University of Florida, and because I didn't have to worry about paying for classes, I could spend my time covering the sports teams that I work around. I'm extremely grateful for the Bright Future Scholarship and the Florida Lottery specifically for allowing me to earn an education.
Move the freight, move the freight. Magellan Transport voted the coolest office space in Jacksonville. Apply online at magellanlogistics.com.
This broadcast is ozone friendly. Ozone.
John Oehser's so kind to answer all the fan questions every day, as you do. So we're going to go over.
This is sort of a part of me, Kai. It really is. Kindness.
That's one of the top descriptors I would use, yes.
Up top.
And fashionable and funny.
Well,
Wow.
keep going. You'll hit one.
All right, let's do Bill from Hawthorne Woods, Illinois says, any insight on potential discussions to bring the NFL draft to Jacksonville after stadium completion? Green Bay worked, so I have to believe that Jax could support it as well. Brian, I'll get your
you
insight.
may know more about, if there's discussions. I haven't really heard, anything official, but I would be very surprised if it's not a thing that they, not only want, get, it's a fit.
It's a lever that the league uses for the non-Super Bowl cities, right? I mean, there's like 9 cities that are going to host the Super Bowl all across the South into California. But places like Green Bay, when they completed Titletown, which was a public-private partnership, sort of like we're seeing out here, Green Bay was given the opportunity to host the draft. They use it, suites, stadiums, these sorts of things, and my guess is that the reason it's going to Washington in 2027 is because they've got the deal done for the new stadium there. I can't imagine that when the commissioner came down and met with the mayor when they were talking about the stadium 2 years ago, that this was not on the table. And I believe you'll see it here. They'll probably give the stadium a year or two for everything to finish up construction-wise and to work their way through the punch list. But I would guess by 2030, Jacksonville will be in the middle of the conversation. And it's worth noting, when they first moved it from New York and took it to Chicago back in 2015, it was a very simple affair. They had a setting in Grant Park with a stage, with the team tables, and now it's become like a Super Bowl. I mean, it stretches, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So they may want to give it a couple more years to make sure that the hotels and the infrastructure are in place here. But I believe you'll see it here 2030, 2031.
But you've been at the last couple drafts, and it can be done in a smaller market, obviously.
Well, Green Bay did it, right? Green Bay did. Nashville, it started in Chicago, and it was simple. And then it went to Philadelphia, and they closed up the Ben Franklin Parkway and made it a bit bigger. And then Nashville, then it went to Dallas, it was in the stadium. Then Nashville took it a different level. I mean, they took Broadway all the way down. It went to Vegas. Vegas is Vegas. Cleveland didn't do much with it. Kansas City did a big deal on the lawn in front of the Union Station at the Liberty Memorial. Detroit did it in Cadillac Square. Green Bay was completely different. They did it around the stadium. So I think it'll be an interesting mix. I'm interested to see, when they start talking about this, how they do it, because I would imagine they'd want something at the beach, they'd want something downtown here, they'd want to blow it up, so to speak. Jacksonville could absolutely do it. They just need more here downtown, which is what they're working on right now.
That's the plan.
I won't be very happy with the traffic that weekend, Brian. I'm used to being able to get right in and get out after.
Yeah, no, you'll be taking a shuttle somewhere. That's the way it'll work.
Most people.
No, well, let me tell you.
You'll have the escort, right?
In Green Bay, nobody got anywhere near it. It's become a level 1 national security event to tell you what the draft has become. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, John, another one. Steve from Nashville said, you have probably covered enough regime changes in the NFL to know if this one feels any different than all the rest. Or does it feel different so far?
Well, I think they all sort of feel different in different ways, to give an awful answer. But I think when I answered the question, I think what you're looking for is, does this feel more right? I think the uniqueness about this one is the transparency that they're acting with, and it's important to all of them to bring the fans into the experience. And Brian, it's hard to put it into words, but there is a common sense, especially with Baselli and Gladstone, who I've gotten to know a little bit better than I have Liam. But I think they all share it. They look at something and think, is that the right way to do it? Yeah, okay, well, let's do it that way. Yeah. That sounds very easy, but so many regimes you've been around sort of try to overcomplicate things. Overall, the thing I'm encouraged about is the communication ability between Gladstone, Baselli, and Liam Cohen to be on the same page. I wish I could describe it better, but I have great faith in that as moving the organization in the right direction.
Well, I mentioned earlier I was at an event with all three of them last night, and I'm a big body language guy. I kind of watch that, and so I was sitting in one stool at the end, and then the three of them were together. It's distinct.
Yeah.
I mean, they finish each other's sentences. They kind of look at each other. They've been together 9 weeks, for goodness sakes, and yet it's very clear that they have developed a strong, cohesive bond between the three of them. If I could put it into words, I would say the transparency is the issue. I think people have seen the clip of Tony and James walking on the practice field and talking about the move. You realize they let them shoot that weeks in advance when very few people knew. The level of trust that is in this organization right now has never been seen before, which goes to show you that they are trying hard to bring the fans into the building as much as they can. Well, that's never happened before either. It's unique, it's remarkable. Choose your adjective. We've been excited about regime changes before, and there have been reason to be excited about regime changes before, but there's never been anything like this.
And there's also a combination. Look, you got to win, and Trevor's got to improve. That's the base is there. But there is a combination of boldness and confidence that's impressive. And as soon as I say that, I hear people saying, well, you can be bold and confident all you want. What if they're just too cocky? Yeah. I don't sense that. I think it's a boldness based on we know what we're doing. We've seen this operate before, and we have to be bold to change this organization. So there's never any guarantees in life or in the NFL. But I feel better about this than anything I have felt probably since I've been back in 2011. And I hope I'm right. I'm enthusiastic about it. I'm an old cynical hack, so I always pull back on everything. But I think these guys got to go in the right direction.
I'm not cynical. I tend to be more optimistic, but I'll tell you this. I go all the way back to the beginning of this franchise. And other than Coughlin, I have not been as excited about what I'm seeing going back 31 years. It doesn't exist.
John, I'm a little cautious as well, just because of all the new things. We never really know what we're going to get.
Sure.
But when I talk about that boldness and you talk about that boldness, a lot of it comes from understanding how they want to operate, in the sense where a lot of people go through the motions sometimes. We talk about, oh, this is the way it's done and this is how you do it. You know, you do a 30 visit, you do whatever, and they're like, no, this is how I want to do it. And whether that's right or wrong, they live with those consequences, but they understand how they want to do things, and they're not just going along with status quo.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, Kai. For instance, it's very unusual not to do the 30 visits. It's a little unusual not to talk to players face to face. I've talked to some assistants of these guys, and the Jaguars really haven't talked to some of the assistants you usually talk to. But you could tell by the draft, they're drilling down and they're finding out about the guys that they want. And then when you talk to James Gladstone about it, there are reasons and sound reasons when they do different things. It's not just for the sake of being bowl or sake of this or sake of that. So they think about it a little differently, but the different way of thinking is still rooted in very sound football principles.
Love it. All right, a final question is going to be Rob from Duval. And he says, would it make sense to just give Travis Hunter a specific player to cover when he's on defense? Time management seems pretty mind-boggling unless they find a way to simplify the game plan on defense. Saying you have this number seems pretty simple, might be good enough to erase some really good players.
Well, I don't know that you want to, hey, you're going to play offense and defense, and you're going to take away the best receiver on the other team, and we're going to carve you a bust right now. Like,
slightly tall task out of the gate.
Let's let him earn that role. I think people are, because it's not necessarily out there and they haven't seen it yet, yes, the time management's going to be a challenge, Brian, but they have a plan for it.
Yep.
And it's basically he's going to work 75% of the time on offense, 25% on defense, and they're going to give him enough packages on defense to understand on that day. So that's the plan, and I know people are, well, what about this, what about this, what about this? That's what they're going to do. And I think if they need to tweak that as you go forward, they will, but that's the plan starting out. So it's not all that mind-boggling to figure out how it's going to work.
Well, that's the key. Is it's going to be a work in progress, right? I mean, they're going to work in extra meeting time for him with the offensive and defensive coordinators throughout the course of the day. They're going to figure out what he's able to do. And Liam said it the other evening that you've got to have him working extra on his own outside of the building. So they're going to figure out, they're going to have a plan, and they're going to figure out what he can do and what he's willing to do, and they're going to work their way through it, and they'll make adjustments. I don't think you can make a hardened. We haven't seen this since the 60s. We haven't seen it in an offensive, defensive. Right. You know what I mean? We just haven't seen it. So they're going to have to give him a lot of room to grow and then rein it in where they need to.
I think it's a good point you made. There's A students. My understanding is there were A students.
Okay, I've been told that as well.
But B students like me did enough to get by during the week. Travis Hunter will need to be an A student. He'll need to be the guy that I looked at when he was going to the library and go, what are you doing? Right. He'll need to be that sort of motivated to make this work, because that's the sort of mental dedication it'll take. He wants to do this, so that's what he'll do.
They think he will.
All right, stay with us. We will tell you the schedule for the rest of the week and what you can expect to hear and from who.
When disaster strikes, trust the experts at Surf Pro. As a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, they bring the same dedication and precision to restoring your property as the Jaguars do on the field. Whether it's water, fire, or storm damage, their highly trained professionals are on call 24/7 to make it like it never even happened. Surf Pro, your local leader in restoration and cleanup.
Hi, my name is Charlie Jordan, and I'm the manager of social media for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So as manager of social media, we serve as a bridge between the fans and the franchise, and so my passion is rooted in being a fan, but I also get to work with the team each day. Bright Future Scholarship was huge for me because I was able to pursue an education at the University of Florida, and because I didn't have to worry about paying for classes, I could spend my time covering the sports teams that I work around. I'm extremely grateful for the Bright Future Scholarship and the Florida Lottery specifically for allowing me to earn an education.
Floridians, do you know how close you are to freshness? It's not a plane or a ship ride away. It's not across an ocean or over the equator. It's not even a far drive. The peak of freshness is at your grocery store, and it's called Fresh from Florida. Fresh from Florida is local produce grown by farmers right here in our own state, meaning it's always fresh, always in season, and always mouth-wateringly good. Look for the sunny Fresh from Florida logo or ask for it by name where you shop.
That went fast.
Yeah.
That went fast. So I do hope that maybe now reflecting on the warp speed of 2 months, life doesn't continue to go that fast, and that I get to pause a little bit more. I think so much this day is about pressing the fast forward button. And I'll look to try as often as I can to press the pause button and just root myself.
Right.
I think I'll be mindful of that for sure.
Has been a whirlwind 2 months for the start of things for our general manager, James Gladstone, who was on the Ozone podcast. And if you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it because we finally got a little bit of a, not a toned down version, but he's not going at 100 miles an hour, so he can kind of reflect a little bit with you, John. I thought it was an enlightening conversation.
Yeah, I think we talked, it was a little longer than the usual Ozone podcast. And as you can imagine, Brian, I could have gone 2 hours. It was, it was fascinating to talk to him. We didn't get super deep into the details of the draft because frankly that's going to be seen in the hunt. So we talked more about sort of him a little bit, and he's a very interesting guy, and I would recommend anybody who wants to understand sort of how this is moving, the direction, why it's so easy to trust in this leadership group, I would recommend watching it. It was a lot of fun.
Tony Baselli told me a story about their interview with him. It was 4 hours long, and said that for the first 2 hours they didn't even talk football. So, I mean, he's a fascinating guy, and he's a deep thinker, and he's fun to listen to.
Yeah, and I could see, I mean, if you're doing an interview process and you get to the end, I could easily see how when they were all done, they got to the point where they were hoping they would get him. Yeah. He's that sort that I would imagine once everything sort of filtered out and they were sitting around the room, it was a pretty easy decision. We got to go get this guy. So I'm really happy he's here, and I would be very surprised if he's not successful and by nature by extension the organization.
Very good. All right, let's talk a little bit about this week. Rookie minicamp kicks off Friday, I believe, is the first day on the field. They'll get here on Thursday, John, and then we'll get to talk and see all of them on Saturday.
Yeah, and it's, as we talked about at the top of the show, the theme around here until it's not is the Travis Hunter experience. Yep. I mean, it's and I think you always get a little worried when you say that about a rookie, that, he's the theme. But from everything you hear, he can handle it. You guys have been around him a little more than I have. I've not had a chance to sit down and talk with him. You guys have. It seems like this is a guy who understands that's what it is, but can walk a humble walk through that, if you will. So
he's a superstar. This franchise has never had that. Never. I mean, I guess you could say Trevor. They've had big players before. I mean, Fred and Jimmy, but that was in an era where it had a different meaning altogether. Now in the social media world, his reach is unbelievable. So I fully expect there to be a circus with this guy. I'm waiting to put his feet on the ground in London, for goodness sakes. I mean, he's got that sort of appeal.
And it's confidence, not arrogance, which is also kind of cool to see nowadays and age, because obviously you want to have belief in yourself without coming across that way. And as talented as he is, you assume that could kind of come across in a braggadocious way, but
it's worth saying.
Very quiet confidence as well.
Having met him for the first time, as you did that draft weekend, I kind of expected there to be a little of that, I think, especially with his, he says Deion Sanders is a father figure to him, right? So I figured there'd be at least a touch of it. I sensed nothing. Nothing in his body language, nothing in his verbal, nothing. He just seems to me to be a unicorn, right?
I will be interested if I ever get a chance to meet some of the people who influenced him growing up, his family, because for him to be as humble as he appears with being a TikTok, it's still TikTok, right? Is that what the cool kids say?
That's one of the things.
For him to be as big of a star on that level as he is, and to walk with the humility that he evidently does, is tough. I'm excited about seeing the the Travis Hunter experience play out.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
We are too. We'll get to see a sneak peek of it this weekend for minicamp, and we'll tell you all about it next week here on Jags AM. Have a good one.